Well, I'm still trying to figure out where everything's got to land here. I got this quarter panel shifted into position, and then I realized I needed to throw the bumper up there, the rear bumper, and see where it was. And it's a good thing I did, because there was a lot of issues related to the bumper structure, and also the height of the quarter panel and how wide it was to the center line of the body. And the bumper itself has a key lock-in point, obviously, in the side of the quarter panel, so that's a guide. Also, there's a nice center point here that I can line up with the center of the car, so that gives me an idea of how wide, which it's much wider than I had originally thought. As you can see, I unnecessarily cut out this material. I'll have to put that back in to spread this out a little further away from the center line. I also have been working on working this down. I took this hard line and out of here, just ran it through the wheel, and so I could get this to blend into this area near the rear window a little bit better. And then I got the stretcher and stretched out this material, because this was rolling over too hard in here, so I could get it to roll into this upper portion of the C-post a little bit better. And over here, I got this in a little closer. I put the top of this crash door skin, which has a hard body line here, so that you could see I lined up this body line here, and this flows into this. That's a good spot there. That worked out pretty good. And then I ended up having to cut out all of this material here in order to flatten this in a little bit, get this closer to the glass, because it was just way too far out, and this inner piece was holding this shape really hard. It rolled over really prominent here, so I cut that out completely, and I don't know how much more of this I'm going to cut out. And then I cut this part of the body closer to the window, so I'm going to have to cheat this shape, the sheet metal down here. But also what I'm going to have to do here, which is going to be interesting, is I have to make a little return flange here that'll cover a portion of the window, yet still allow you to slide a window. If you need to replace this window, you'll be able to slide it in. Take the molding off and then slide the window in and replace it. And then I'll have to come up with a molding that goes around it, matches the molding here. That'll be an interesting job to see if I can get that done. But that'll have to go around here and hide that pocket. There'll be a pocket here, because then this surface has to be flat to create the idea that the window is the same shape as the body when it actually travels much further back in here like that. So like I said, I'm going to have to put a piece of sheet metal out here, maybe leave about a 1/2 inch gap, be able to cover with 3/4 of an inch of molding and seal that up. So it'll be a pocket back in there that, like I said, if you ever have to replace this window, that gets me out of having to make a piece of custom glass here, which is pretty expensive for a little tiny piece of glass like that, because it's got a curve. So anybody that's working on cars like 1964, 66 back, they all have flat glass. Much easier projects, because you could just go ahead and if you got an issue with like stretching a door or any kind of chop top or anything, you could always just get a piece of flat laminated glass, because that's what was in the cars, and those are relatively cheap to cut. But as soon as you throw a curve into the piece of glass, it has to be heated and bent and mold. So that throws everything into a tailspin as far as the amount of cost that's going to rack up for you. But been shifting this back and forth, trying to get these wheels openings a little even. There's still much more material I have to just cut out of there. You can see that yellow peeking through there, but this is pretty much where it needs to be. I worked the string out on a spacer over here for the body line, so this is the right height going down the hill, matching the frame rail. So I measured down to the pinch weld with the string, and actually you can't see it's just dropped right now, but I had the string held here, and then I ran it across out away from the body so it would match the distance away from the body over here, so you get a nice parallel in this direction. And then also checking the height that I wanted the slope of the body line to match the slope of the rocker panel underneath in the pinch weld. So the deck skin, obviously, it takes a turn down in this direction. So from this point out, it'll have to come straight out. And then I'll have to bring some supports out from here to hold what will end up being the bottom of the skin, which will roll up and down to mimic the 71. A big issue I'm going to have, and I don't know how I'm going to handle it yet, is the roll pan. You know, originally when I threw these quarter panels up, they were nice and long, had a big long overhang, and this whole thing was back further. But since I've had to cut it, you shorten it up to balance it out from the side, we have this to deal with. This is actually where the battery, it's actually back in this particular portion is the fuse, a fuse box. Then the battery's out ahead of it in the trunk here. This is not so big of a deal. This right here can be cut away a little bit and sloped. But this is quite a bit lower than my quarter panel bottom here. So even bringing a roll pan across here at that height, this looks a little bit goofy, to say the least. So I'm going to have to see what I can do about modifying that, moving the fuse box. I hate to do that. I like to leave the car itself as much of a in its stock position as possible. But it'll, you know, if it's going to look stupid, I thought about a diffuser and things like that, but that's generally cut into the existing roll pan. It's not something that would be added below the roll pan, and that's what I need. I need something below the roll pan to hide that, you know, because this is actually the height of the roll pan, if it lines up with these quarter panels where it'll be. So it'll be interesting to see how I have to deal with that. So I keep jumping around on this project, but each time I find something, I have to kind of stop what I'm doing and take care of something ahead of time. It becomes obvious to me that I'm going to probably have to mount this rear bumper first, because it's going to be key to making sure that everything stays where it needs to stay as far as the quarter panel is. And it's kind of good that I got thrown off of the front end work over here with the fenders and everything and got to the quarter panels, because the quarter panels actually dictate the body line. And before I finish the front fenders, I have to know exactly the height of the body line as it follows through into the front fenders. But that's where it is right now. Well, I went ahead and just mounted up the bumper in the back here. I mean, it's not the complete mount. It's just enough to hold it up where it needs to go. I used a 3/16 piece of steel plate, drilled it out, put it right to the old bumper, or I should say the Challenger bumper mount points. And put the plate on first, and I had the this 71 bumper supported out where it needed to be located relative to the quarter panel bottom, and then I just ran some 3/4 by 3/4 tubing just to connect the dots for now. Still a little shaky here. It could use another something more substantial running back to here. I was going to rebuild this a whole lot lighter, and then I said, why reinvent the wheel? This seems to work out pretty good. I'll stand back here and take a better shot of it so you can see how it works into the side. I don't think it looks that bad. Obviously, we've extended everything down here, and this will be a taller panel than it would be on a 71 by about 2 inches. That shouldn't look too funny. I think it looks pretty good right where it's at. And so now that I have that in place, I can use it as a relationship point. It's centered up and spaced off the back of the car the right amount for this quarter panel. And that'll give me a guide of where to locate the quarter panel on the other side, because the height will be determined and the distance back off the center line of the wheel will be determined by where that bumper, this cutout here is, that fits very neatly into the stock bumper. Well, that's it for now.